everyone, and welcome to Black Women Speak Network. I am Giselle Shapiro, the founder of Black Women Speak the Movement, the network, the upcoming book, and yes, we are focusing on the Black Women Speak book series, so stay tuned for that. I'm also producer of the Black Women Speak Network, and I am super delighted to introduce to you today one of our amazing co-authors in the book, Black Women Speak. Her name is Dr. Gloria Willingham-Toure. Welcome, Dr. Gloria. How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm doing absolutely fine. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, wonderful. And we're happy to interview you so that we can fill everybody in on who you are and what you have to say, because your story is amazing. Can you share with the audience a little bit about your background?
Wow. Oh, my, that's a big question for me. I'm never quite sure where to start. So if somebody once said, start from the beginning, Gloria. So I'm going to start from the beginning. That might be a good place to start. Anyway, I was born, actually I have to tell you that I was actually born in the South, in Little Rock, Arkansas, I'm proud to say. And I was born during the Civil Rights era. And I was one of the early students to go to Little Rock Central High School when it was newly desegregated after Brown versus the Board of Education. I was a member of the group that came in after the Little Rock Nine. So that's another whole story in itself. I don't even want to talk about that one. But I graduated from Little Rock Central High School. I went on to Southern Illinois University, which was just such a wonderful experience for me. Met a lot of friends who are still my friends to this very day. I tend to hold on to people over years when I meet them. And that was another story. That's another whole different story about a whole different part of my life. And then I went from there, I became a mother. And then I was a single mom after that. And then I was a married mom after that. I've been through it. You name it. I think I have been through it. That's for sure. And I've lived all over the country. I've lived all over the United States. I've also lived on almost every continent in the world, lived and or worked on every continent in the world. And so I love talking to people from everywhere. I love bringing my story into their story. And vice versa. That's my passion. It really is. And as a Black woman, I think that the Black experience is something that so many people just don't really know. Unless you have that lived experience, you just don't know it. So the thing about me, I guess, would be I like bringing those stories forward and opening that door.
I love that. Thank you so much, Dr. Gloria. And you know, your chapter, your chapter is entitled "Out of the Shadows."
Yes.
And what I gleaned from that story is, it's your letter to white America.
Yes.
I felt your pain and your relief to express what's in your heart and come out with what you needed to say, because it's about time. And can you share a little bit more about your story, please?
Yes, I definitely can. One of the things that I do, and I allude to that in the chapter, about how we can have these stories and these experiences, but we have these experiences without the opportunity, quite often, to have those experiences go beyond us. And so it becomes like a singular experience that we're living. It's not an experience, not realizing that there are parallel experiences that are going on at the same time. That's a real separation I sense when we talk about Blacks and whites, and particularly as a Black woman. So I have to hear the other side. So my story is that I've been forced to listen to the other side all of my life, all the way up to the PhD program, all the way through my military career, all the way up to becoming a lieutenant colonel, all the way through all of my travels. I am so well voiced in that white world. I really am, because I've had to live in it. I have had to learn how to maneuver my way through it. I've had to know the history of it all. But my story is that I've not been able to really bring my own story into that with any kind of credibility. I found myself in situations where I was trying to build credibility by proving that I knew that world better than I knew my own. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's why I call it coming out of the shadows. So we stood back in the shadows, and I learned everything that I learned: how to walk, how to talk, how to sit, how to act, how to raise my hand, how to be in the boardroom, how to be outside the boardroom, even how to lead the boardroom. Yes. But not how to bring myself, my whole self into that. So my story is really a story of bringing my whole self into the playing field. My whole self, not a piece of me, but me. And I found in talking to other Black women, we all have sort of share that. We share that. We all do. And I think when this whole movement now with racial justice and the Black Lives Matter movement, when all of that just sort of rose all over, not just here in the United States, but all over the world. Yeah. I could feel that synergy from the shadows. From the shadows, I could feel that synergy, and I knew at that point that my story was not just my story. It's the story of a lot of us.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I think, excuse me, I've been asked to bring that story forward now, and in many venues and in many ways, both locally, internationally, to primarily white audiences, actually.
That's
recently.
Great. I'm
which
happy
is really
to hear
something,
that.
because that wasn't something that was asked. I spoke to a Rotary Club just recently, and I'm scheduled to speak to another one because they wanted to know my story. Yes. Now that's very unusual, and I think without this current state of movement that we're in, I've been invited to speak before. I could have spoken on many different topics, but it would not have been on what is your story. That would not have been the topic. I've been invited recently to speak at an international gathering, which is coming up fairly soon here now in Great Britain, where they're celebrating their own National Black History Month. You know, we always think of Black History Month as being only here in the U.S., but actually there are other countries that are doing it too. And in the month of October, there are actually 3 other countries. I believe it's Great Britain, Netherlands, and Ireland. And so now people are asking me to tell my story, the story of myself as being Black and African American living in the United States. What's that experience been? Now, isn't that a simple question? That
you would
sounds
think
like
so.
a simple question. But let me tell you, it is not a simple question.
I know.
And it is not an answer that many have heard before. For many people, I'm sure listening in, that will be the first time they have ever heard a story from a Black person, uncensored.
And it's time. It's time.
It is time.
And can you share with our listeners what you want them to learn from your story, Dr. Gloria?
I want them to learn the importance of their story, number one. I want them to learn that one can learn from one's own story. One is a protagonist in one's own story. I want them to know that. I want them to learn how to tell that story uncensored. How to tell that story uncensored. Not be afraid to do it. And I hope that by hearing my story, and maybe even hearing how I share my story, that will give them courage. Because one of the things I have learned over my lifetime is that by hearing other people tell their stories, it's given me courage. It's given me courage. It's given me a lot of courage. And I think that is so important. Every time one of those stories come forward, the more courage each one of us are able to get. I'm seeing that. Women all over the world, I'm seeing that. And Black women all over the world, not just here. I'm seeing that. And having those conversations.
Yeah. I agree. And what pulls at your heartstrings now, given the current state of our country, Gloria, Dr. Gloria?
Yeah, I think what pulls at my heartstrings now really, really deeply, there's a division here. There's this division. There's this, I don't know how to say it exactly. There seems to be almost a hatred in many ways. A hatred for this rising forward that we're seeing, the fact that we are speaking out, that we are rising, that tugs at my heartstrings. And I'm hoping that a lot of that division that we're seeing is really occurring because we're the unknown. That's what I'm hoping. Because if it is because we're the unknown, we need every door open so that we can become the known. I have something I said in a previous speech and this was a white group I was speaking to. And so what I said to them, I said, now let me tell you something, whether you admit to it or not, you have white privilege. Now I think you know you do. I do. Now all I'm asking of you now is you need to start using those privileges, but using them differently.
Yes.
You need to use those privileges to open doors that you know you can open that I can't yet. So that's what really tugs, that's my passion, that tugs at my heartstrings, because I believe that it's more than just us coming together. It's more than that. No, there's a lot of things that are going to have to go into place with that. So that's me.
That's a good book. I'll tell you, that'll be a bestseller right off the bat. I can tell you that, Dr. Gloria. And what's a few possible solutions for peace in the world? I know you touched on that a little bit in my last question, but what would bring peace?
Oh, now first of all, I wish I had the real definitive answer to that question. I just wish I had the definitive.
Let's just start.
So I only have a little. This is just a piece of the answer, but I think that in order for the peace to be peace in the world, the first thing we've got to do is to come to the point of truly, I mean truly, wanting it. Wanting it. And I don't mean just wanting it on the big global scale here of, we think no war. That's usually what we think. We think peace. We think, well, no more wars. It's easy for us to say that. Why? Because technically all of us are really sort of removed from that reality. We're moved. I was in the military, so I know what it's like when you're with people who are in that reality. And I can tell you that most of us out here in the civilian world are removed from that reality. So wars become easy for us. It's easy for us to say, well, when there's no war, there's peace. In fact, they put them almost as opposites to each other, war and peace. But peace is more than the absence of war.
Yes.
Peace is something that has to come up deep from within our spirits. And we have to start, just as I always say, everything else has to start with oneself. It has to start with oneself. And it has to move outward from there. We could be in a situation where there is no war and still not have peace. So in order to have peace, we have got, and when I say we, I mean each one of us individually. And it takes one at a time. People always say, well, Gloria, how can you say that? We're talking millions and millions and millions of people out here. How do you say? Because everything begins with one.
Yes.
With one.
Absolutely. The starfish story. If I could save one starfish, so I get it. And do you believe the world needs more Black women to rise up and start speaking and sharing their stories to bring change?
I definitely. I believe it in my heart. And my soul knows it to be true. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We have some powerful stories to tell. We can fill in some powerful gaps in history, in the history of the world. We can fill in some powerful gaps of what the world could be. Imagine if all of those voices have been silent for so long, either silence or what I call contrived. And I count myself as one of those who may have been contrived. You will often hear me say when I'm speaking that my education gets in my way. I say that all the time. That's because my education has caused me to be contrived in how I speak and what I say. But once I start moving away from that, oh my goodness.
Oh, you're on fire.
I'm on fire because education is more than just what you learn in school. We have a lot of untapped education here.
Absolutely.
Right now.
Absolutely. And in parting, how do you want to leave us? What are your words of wisdom? Because you are a great woman of wisdom who I adore. So I would love to hear what you have to say right now.
I think what I would like to say is two things. One, I always tell people, bring your story out of the shadows. Let's bring it forward. But there's a second piece to that. For those that are not quite ready, and I know that some people are not quite ready yet. It took me like 30 years before I could really feel really ready. Now, hopefully it won't take everybody that long. But you see, within that 30-year framework that we're talking about, there were people all along the way who were bringing their stories out. And with everyone that came out, it helped me. It strengthened me. It strengthened me. So I want to leave you with that. No matter how important you think that story is, bring that story out. Bring it out.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gloria. This has been
indeed
a pleasure and an honor to have you part of this movement. You're a founding member of Black Women Speak, and I love your story. And I hope everyone will want the book and grab a hold of your story and want to share theirs. Okay, and I am super excited about Black Women Speak. Please go to the network, excuse me, not the network, but go to the website to purchase the book at www.blackwomenspeakthebook.com and sign up to subscribe for Black Women Speak Network. And we'll see you next time when I interview one of the co-authors in the book. And goodbye and God bless. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so
my
much.
pleasure. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.